Hello, YouTube friends. Welcome back. If you've been here before, I'm so glad you've returned. And if you haven't already, I hope you'll subscribe. And welcome to those of you who are new to the channel. My name is Holly, and I'm here to update us all on the things I've been reading and the things I finished and my plans for YouTube for the rest of the year. And that's a lot to pack into one video. So I'll keep it all, well, I don't know. We'll see how long this video goes. I don't intend for it to be very long. So get cozy with me. I'm trying to cultivate sort of a new vibe for my videos, and I've done several videos in this location already, but I'm kind of working on this space here in my house, which is what I like to call the den. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to make a name change to my channel, so be on the lookout for that. If all things go as I plan, it'll be tomorrow for September 1st. But today we'll just kind of wrap up the vibe for the channel so far, which I think probably in a couple more months we're at a year. So I don't know, for some reason I feel like now's the time to kind of lean in a little bit more and see how I can let this space evolve. So with that in mind, I've been trying to create a cozier vibe here in my place and really take it over, because the way the condo that I have with my husband is laid out is pretty small, and so because it's just us and because we're not big entertainers, we've kind of made the space fit us. So this whole space that I'm in now is what used to be a living room, and it's still where our couch is, but it's just my stuff's everywhere. So this has sort of become my office / den. And I love it. And I'm trying to be very present for the fact that I have this space. And then out beyond here is what used to be our dining room. But I turned that into my yoga studio so that I wouldn't have to constantly clear a space for my classes that I teach online. So anyway, I'm liking what's happening. I'm feeling a little bit more like, I don't know, settled here, and a little bit like it's giving me more direction in the videos that I want to put out here and the things I want to do in my life, because I'm at a bit of a crossroads right now, and I'll go into that in another video, but all good. So I'm so pleased, and thank you to those of you out there in YouTube booktube land that have inspired me over the last, I don't know, the last year has been the most inspirational. And there's a couple of channels that I don't remember when I started watching them, but we got to be coming up on about a year now. And they've inspired me to be a reader and to get back to it and to stay with it, even though, you know, I came back to this round of loving books after having my attention span kind of wrecked by being on my phone all the time. So that's another theme that I'm leaning into, and I have some things planned around that here on the channel, is sort of slowing down and appreciating the way things used to be before I had a phone, before I was on the internet all the time. And there's a whole theme around that I'm working with in my life and my writing right now. So we'll see where that heads. But anyway, I want to give thank you or gratitude to YouTube Bookland, because it has really, I don't know how to put this in words, but like created the aesthetic for me to want to dive back into books and make that a big part of my life again. So I struggled my way through about the last year of reading and, you know, not having a lot of attention span. And now I can successfully sit down and read. For last night before sleep, I read for 2 hours. And my eyes were like just giving out. And I just kept reading because the books I'm reading are so good. So anyway, with that in mind, the books that I finished kind of at the end of July and the beginning of August, I think I've been through these all now for a couple weeks. What a great trio of books. There's something about these books that made them so fun to read, like they were good summertime reads. So let's just dive right in before I start babbling about whatever summertime reads means for me. This is The Heart, Frida Kahlo in Paris. I've mentioned it in previous videos, and I struggle to say the author's last name, Marc Petitjean. I know I'm not doing a good job of that, but I started Duolingo for French today, so maybe in a couple more months I'll be able to pronounce these names more successfully. But this story is written from the author's perspective, having grown up with a father who supposedly had a relatively brief but maybe meaningful affair with Frida. And it was such a different look at Frida. And I've even talked about the book itself in previous videos and kind of explained my feelings about it. But it seems to be, after having now finished it, it's a snapshot into a relatively happy point in Frida's life. And we all know Frida had a hard life. And so I just really enjoyed it. And I love the time period and the place that it's set in. It's in Paris in the late 30s. And suddenly, and I'm sure because I get my books on Thrift Books almost exclusively, and they give you recommendations. So this is how I'm finding a lot of the titles that I'm buying right now. But I'm reading a lot about 1930s Paris, Europe, which is kind of a scary parallel, if you ask me, for the times we're living in right now. But that aside, it was a very, like, Paris had so much art going on in it from the turn of the century. Well, now what's the turn of the last century? But anyway, it's just for me, it's such an interesting time. For a lot of people, it's an interesting time, but I'm becoming very interested in it. And it's taking me in new directions with my reading, which I love. So anyway, I totally enjoyed reading this. It didn't take me that long to read. It's, let's put the glasses on so I can see things now. How many pages? But it's not even 200 pages, about 192. What else can I say that would be eloquent? It's kind of especially touching because it's this man, this author, getting to know his dad through researching these stories. So I don't know, it's just very poignant. And as many of us do, I have a fascination with Frida and reverence for her art and a lot of respect for how she took what for her was a lot of pain and grief and difficulty and fed it into her creativity. So great read. If you're at all interested in Frida and her life, you'll like this. There's not a lot about Diego Rivera in this book because she was in Paris by herself during this period, hence the affair, I guess. So anyway, I super recommend this. I don't really have any practice at giving books, whatever, 4-star, etc. But I can't imagine giving this book anything less than a 4-star just because I enjoyed it so much. I'm not so terribly eloquent at expressing like how it was written and all that, the more of the linguistics and all that of it, and the writing style. But as far as enjoyment, totally 4 stars. And then I read Enchanted April by Elizabeth von Arnim. And I'm sure a lot of you, like I am, have been familiar with the movie. And, reading this book kind of made me realize this book and then a movie I watched recently, which I hope I brought here. I think I did. Made me have a new appreciation for when we used to get our movies at Blockbuster. Because I think without those years, I don't think I would have discovered foreign films in the way I ended up discovering them. One of the first foreign films that I watched and enjoyed, I watched because I was a Spanish major at UCSB, and the movie Like Water for Chocolate was debuting, and we saw it at this great theater. I'm trying to remember the name of it. It might have been the Arlington in Santa Barbara, and it was like for credit in one of our Spanish classes, and it was so lovely and kind of, I guess, open the door for me for foreign films. So anyway, I remember getting this movie. I'm sure it was from Blockbuster, and I've seen it maybe once or twice. I had the DVD for a while, but it got lost. Anyway, I was a little bit, whenever you love the movie or you love the book, I always get scared to watch or read the other. But this is so much like the movie. So charming, really great summer read. Like if you want to eke out one more summer book before this season closes, this is a great choice. It's, they're on holiday, and they're on holiday in Italy and in this medieval castle, and the characters are so rich. And having seen the movie probably 3 or 4 times already, it was very satisfying to get inside the heads of characters who I could see their faces on screen. And I realized how much each of these actors, and particularly the 4 women, put into those performances. They did such a good job of embodying these characters. So boy, do I recommend this book. And it's a really nice read. It's 245 pages, more or less. And I don't know. I could babble for a while about it, but it was really nice. I read this book in the mornings. I tend to choose books for evening and books for the morning. This was a morning read. Doesn't mean like if I'm not having a really enjoyable day with the book, I might bring it to, read at night. Same for this one. I think I read this one I read this one primarily at night, but I remember bringing it out into the den for morning reads too. So two of them, I could never give this anything less than a 4-star, but that's kind of maybe why I'm hesitant to do stars, because if I love anything, I'll just give it 4 stars. So anyway, really like them both. Totally recommend. This was my splurge. At the end of July, I think it was, might have been the end of June. I just decided I wanted to buy a full price book, and I bought this one by Graydon Carter. It's his memoir, When the Going Was Good, and Editor's Adventures During the Last Golden Age of Magazines. I'm very lazy and I didn't really tell you guys what this Enchanted April is about, but I think if you like this kind of thing, you've heard of it. So if you haven't yet read this book, read it. It's about 4 women who are leading, for whatever set of circumstances, a kind of drab existence in London. Not London. Well, maybe it is London. I don't remember exactly. I think it is. And by a bunch of happenstance, they come together to rent this medieval castle in April, and it's lovely. Okay, so that's bare bones, but that's the gist of it. Really lovely things happen through the story. Back to Graydon. So I think I was probably in junior high school when I became aware of Vanity Fair magazine, but I was not ready for it in any kind of way until college. So, I might have seen a few issues here and there through the late 80s, but it wasn't until I got to college that I started reading it more frequently, and then as an adult especially, a graduated adult especially. So I believe Graydon came to Vanity Fair in 1992. So it really coincides, yes, it really coincides with the time that I came to Vanity Fair, because 1992, I was in my junior year of college. So it's fun to read because he talks about the way things were at that point, and I can remember, yes, the way things were at that point. A lot of the stuff about before having a cell phone, before being on a computer, a lot of the writers at Vanity Fair, even through his tenure there, and I'm not remembering when he left, but it's been within the last 5 years, I think. How a lot of them, even up until the time that he left, were still not a lot of them, some of them, few of them were writing on actual typewriters. So this is just a really cool look inside what it was to become the editor, and the path he took from boyhood up through college and into the time period when he got hired here and his life kind of took off and he became successful, and all the different ideas and morals and ideas that he brought to being the editor. And it was just really interesting. Especially, I love magazines and I miss magazines, and it really takes me back to that romantic time of magazines and leafing through them and getting 3, 4, 5, 8 magazines a month. And I am realizing more and more as I get older how much I love getting to those comfy, nostalgic places inside myself. And books like this really help. So I loved it. It was about 350 pages, something like that, 400. So these 3 I read together, albeit this one in the morning, but what a great read. I finished them within probably like 5 days of each other. I totally recommend all 3. If I was eloquent enough to tell you any more to convince you, I would, but they're just great, all great. And I was so happy. I was like, wow, I'm racking up all these pages, which then made me kind of slow down and remember, as another booktuber has commented recently, this is not a race. It's not about seeing how many books you can read. And especially because I'm trying to do this slower pace and kind of the analog life, I want to take as much time as I want within reason, because I used to drag out reading books for like ever. Right now I am reading, and I won't go into great detail so I can keep this video relatively short. Stolen Beauty, I've talked about this before. I read Hester earlier this year, also by Laurie, Lico, Albanese. Emailed her, she emailed me back. She asked me to tell her how I liked this book, and so I got it. And I'm almost finished with it. I have maybe 50 pages left to go. It's so good. It's so good. And this takes place, well, all over, but kind of the meat of the story is in Vienna, and at the turn of the century, and also in the late 30s. Hence what I was saying earlier about reading all these stories about this time period and this place. And this is especially gives you the willies politically when you read about the lead up. And anyway, yeah, the story I love, and the political is good because I was not the greatest history student, and I did not apply myself, and I did not click with my teachers, and so my history is a little spotty. So while I knew a lot of these things, I did not know the nuance, and there's a lot that I didn't know. So this has been great. This dual timeline storytelling I really enjoy. There's been quite a few stories I've read like that this year, and this is in both stories start in Vienna one at the turn of the century and the other in the late 30s. And then the one at the turn of the century is staying in Vienna, I'm pretty sure, but the one in the 30s, she's had to move out of Vienna to England, Liverpool, and now it's looking like she's going to need to move to either America or Canada. And so this one's been a good history lesson for me. Great story, and I really like her writing. So I'm totally recommending this one, and I should probably finish it. Today's Sunday, the 31st of August, right? Yes. And so 31st of August. And so tomorrow's September. Anyway, I should have this book finished by next weekend for sure. And then this book was recommended. I mentioned in, I don't know, a video or two ago that I needed to branch out and introduce myself to more YouTube book channels, booktubes. I keep not being able to spit that out. I needed to introduce myself to more booktube channels. So I found Angela. I'm looking at her page right now on my computer, Angela's Bookcase. And I really like Angela's videos. I've seen about 4 or 5 of them now. And the first one I watched was a really recent one of hers. And I'm trying to get that in better light. And this book called Burial, oh my God, I can't say it. Burial Rites by Hannah Kent is so good. And I'm almost exactly halfway through. It takes place in late 1800s, I think, like maybe 1829. And it's in Iceland. This is a book I would never, I don't think, have found on my own. It's not a real typical kind of reading for me, but I really like it. It's so interesting. It's not exactly like uplifting. It's pretty dark. This woman's been convicted of murder, and it's a lot of different threads to the story, but one of the more thicker threads is her relationship with a reverend who has been tasked with helping her accept that she's going to be put to death for this crime she's been convicted of, and for her to, get right with God and accept her fate and make sure that she's ready to meet her maker. That relationship is just starting to really blossom at this point, or warm up and open up. I'm at a really kind of key point in the story. There's a lot of things kind of coming to a head right now. My feeling is, although I don't know it all at this point, is that she's not guilty of the crime, and I don't know how he's going to get her out of it because it's looking pretty bleak. But it's a really interesting read, and I don't know anything about Icelandic culture, so it's a great learning tool as well. And I think she has several books, Hannah Kent. So if I really like this, that'll be an author for me to keep my eyes on and read more of her books. I'll read you if there's a blurb. Maybe there's not a blurb. I guess there's not a blurb. Oh yeah, there is, and it's very short. Northern Iceland, 1829. A woman condemned to death for murdering her lover. A family forced to take her in. A priest tasked with absolving her. But all is not as it seems, and time is running out. Winter is coming, and with it the execution date. Only she can know the truth. This is Agnes's story. I really like the name Agnes too. So I am so happy that I found Angela's Bookcase, and I'm so glad that Angela recommended this book. And I commented on Angela's video that it kind of gave me vibes of another book I read, although the other book was like 100 pages, and this one is about 350. The book I read initially is called Hex, which I think is behind me. I'll be able to see it. Yeah, there it is, by Jenny Fagan, Fagan. Similar story about a woman who's been convicted. In Hex's case, it's a witch trial. This is, although I think they probably think she's a witch in this book. This isn't specifically a witch trial. But they reminded me, because they're both, about to be put to death, and the interesting things that are going on in their minds during that point. I loved Hex. I thought that was a great book, especially for only being, I don't even know if it's 100 pages. It's really short. Anyway, loving burial rites. Happy to have stumbled upon Angela's bookcase, and I will put a link to her channel below. So if you want to stumble into her world too, and you haven't already, you can. All right, what else am I reading? I swore I was only going to read, oh wait, I need to get another book. That's somewhere. Where is it? I think I should just wait until the next video. There's another book, my morning read right now. It's called The Beautiful Fall. I'm not going to be able to remember the name of the person who wrote it. I think the last name is Franck, Franck. I can see the book. I can feel the book. I think it's right there. Anyway, the book is called The Beautiful Fall, and it's about the time period of Yves Saint Laurent and Karl Lagerfeld coming up in Paris as designers. And right now I'm in 1971, and it's getting really good. And they're meeting all these cool people, and like Andy Warhol has popped into the scene, and Lulu Defalé, I don't know how to say her name. And there's been mention of Angelica Houston and Pat Cleveland, and that whole fashion world, especially from the past, is super interesting to me. So I'm finding like all these veins of things that I'm truly interested in, and that really like kind of lift my heart in all these different ways. And it's all because I started reading again. And I feel like so corny about this, but it's been so amazing. And I feel like this is going to sound so silly, but I feel like such a much more interesting person for having all these books now in my world. So I ended up, even though I swore I was only going to read Stolen Beauty, Burial Rites, and The Beautiful Fall, I was like, okay, just read those 3 books, get through another 3, good. But then I bought this book on Thrift Books, and I've been looking at this book for a long time, but because of all the other books that I'm reading right now and where my interests are going, this one's like the lead up. This one's like from the turn of the century through the 30s in Paris. And this is where I'm getting this last name. This is not the name of the person who wrote the Karl Lagerfeld Yves Saint Laurent book, which is called The Beautiful Fall. I don't know who. I'll have to think. I think the person's first name starts with an A. But anyway, so I was like, well, I'm just going to see what this book's like. And oh my gosh, I started reading this 2 nights ago. I'm like 10 pages in. So interesting, and especially because it leads up to all the things that I'm reading now. So yeah, so now this one I'm going to read probably nice and slow. It's, first of all, it's chunky. It's it doesn't really matter, but looks like it's going to be 400 pages. But the print is not that, well, it's not that small, but the pages are super full. Like, can I find a really full page? Like, I don't know. It just, the pages, the text on the pages kind of, at the beginning kind of were daunting to me. But now that I love this, what this book is about so much, it's just so cool. Let's read a little bit of the blurb. Paris hosted some of the most legendary developments in world culture, particularly at the beginning of the 20th century, when Fauvism, Cubism, Dadaism, and Surrealism were forged in the streets of Montparnasse. That's a word I need to learn how to say, because that comes up a lot. I think it's a neighborhood in Paris. And Montmartre. In Bohemian Paris, Dan Franck leads us on a vivid and magical tour of the Paris of 1900 to 1930, a hotbed of artistic creation where we encounter Guillaume Apollinaire, Amadeo Modigliani, Jean Cocteau, Henri Matisse, Pablo Picasso, Ernest Hemingway, F. Scott Fitzgerald, and Gertrude Stein, working, loving, and struggling to stay afloat like characters in a Balzac story. Oh my gosh. So I'm going to let myself read this one pretty slow because it's going to be a history lesson too. And finally, I got this book because somebody on BookTube was talking about fall reads, and this seemed like a fall read to me, and I'm kind of ready to lean back into witchy stuff, which is a big interest for me. And I know this author. She wrote, trying to remember, Yin Yoga. Oh, they're right back here. Yoga for Witches. And I think the other one's called Yin Yoga. Oh, Yin Magic, I think is what it's called. So Sarah Robinson, I believe she's British, I think. And I followed her a little bit online. She's a yoga teacher, and I really like the intersection of yoga and witch. It's very interesting to me. They go together so well, and I bring a lot of that into my practice without making it a big deal when I talk to my students. But like that earth-based appreciation, tapping into your own magic in a really earthy and not such a like airy way, a more grounded way. And so I love folklore. I'm realizing that about myself. I kind of wish if I could go back to school, back to college and get another degree, I'd get one in folklore. I think it would be the coolest major. But anyway, Sarah Robinson is a really good author. She writes really down to earth. And this is just like about folk tales and how they developed and where they came from. And she tells some of the stories, and I'm not very far in. 26, page 26. But I'm just going to let myself read this at a pretty slow pace because I think it'd be cool to finish it in October, or, you know, like take at least a month now to get through it so that I at least get through the equinox with it. I think it'll be a good like portal into the autumn season. Okay, so that's it. There's a few other things that I was going to talk about, but let's let this one wrap up. I'm planning I hope some cool stuff for the channel, like weekly videos that I will do on the same day of the week, every week. I've ordered some stuff online to bring in and pull. Nothing major. I'm still working with a real DIY budget, but I'm looking forward to it. And I think I'll wait until the next video, my first video in September, to tell you guys a little bit more. But keep your eyes open, and I hope it gets and or stays interesting. And if you're new, I hope you'll subscribe. And if you're returning, I hope you've already subscribed. My name's Holly. I'll be back for more in a couple more days. Thanks a lot for staying for this one. See you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.